Today we're going to talk about self-confidence in the studio and how being able to ride your confidence will let you go to new places with your artwork. So let's see what we can talk about here. All right, let's get into this. So recently I was talking to some students and we were really talking about, what is it that teachers really teach? Is it skills? Is it practically anything? And the thing that really came about to us was the fact that at the end of the day, what teachers are going to teach you, there's going to be skills, there's going to be like real information. But a lot of that real information comes through the ideas of self-confidence. Can we build your confidence up enough so that when you're making your work, you're not shying away from something, you're not scared of something, you're not backing away from it? And that's really like the important thing. If you don't have the confidence to try something new, you'll never try something new. And so that's kind of where it goes. The thing that we really discovered too with all this was there's kind of this big chicken and the egg situation about creativity. Do skills come first, or do ideas come first? Or, how does confidence really get built? And, if you have a lot of skills, you'll probably have a lot of confidence. But if you have a lot of confidence, you may not have a lot of skills. And so it's kind of a false confidence. And one thing that we were talking about is, and at least how I kind of get around that, is I just jump in and make something. And when you kind of just jump in and make it, it's okay because it may not be great, it may not be what you're looking at, but it's the first one or it's the early one. And so by jumping in and just making it, you have an idea of being able to look at yourself and go, okay, this can be fixed or this can be changed and I can do this differently and this is what I find interesting. The whole idea of skill to confidence is like one of these circles that just never ends. It's a chicken and the egg situation. No one likes that. But if you jump into it, you kind of bump into that whole thing that Yvon Chouinard talks about, which is like the cure for depression is action. The cure for depression is not like thinking yourself happy. The way you do it is actually you go out and you do something and you make yourself happy. And I really agree with him on that. And I think that even though I talk about it in different ways, we're kind of talking about the same sides of the same coin. Now, what are the things that you can do to not fall into like a spiral of lack of self-confidence? And the first thing I'll say is, don't compare yourself to artists in social media, or to artists that like sit in the museums. You're talking about ideas that all these artists are all on different journeys, and I hate using the term journey, but we're all on kind of different paths. So everyone's a little bit different in a different place in their creative life. If you're like Picasso, okay, he's dead. But if you're someone like that, you're at the highest levels of that. You've had sales, you've had shows, you've had whatever. If you're someone who's on Instagram, let's say with a lot of followers, versus someone who's kind of new in Instagram without a lot of followers, maybe they don't even care that much about Instagram or what have you, and you start comparing yourself to those people, there's a lot of false equivalencies there, and it's really just bound to kind of screw you up in the long run. So just be super careful about that. Only judge yourself against yourself and where you wish to be. The minute you start judging yourself against other people who've been in this for longer, other people who might be more connected or more this or more that, or just have whole different skill sets, you're asking to kind of like start spiraling yourself down. The other thing I find is that maybe hold a little bit lower self-expectations of yourself. We live in a world where everyone has such high self-expectations about everything they do, like everything I make is going to be the Mona Lisa, and it just isn't the way things are. Give yourself a bit of a break. Be a little bit kinder to yourself, and realize that if you're doing something new, it's not going to be perfect. And even the first 10 may not be perfect. But down the road, you're going to develop and develop and develop and develop and refine and refine and refine. And those pieces are going to become really very good. And you have to understand that that's part of that process. You just don't get self-confidence by like flipping a switch like, oh, I'm self-confident now. I'm happy and shiny and I'm going to do everything I need to do now because I've got all the confidence and skills I need. And if I don't have the skills, well, I've got the confidence to blow through it. It doesn't really work that way. And lastly, understand what rejection really is. We talked about this earlier on like getting rejected from like group shows and stuff like that. You get the rejection letters, and I still don't understand why some people save their rejection letters. I think that's really not such a great idea, but whatever, different strokes. Rejections, if it's a rejection letter from a show, it just means you're not ready at that moment for that person. Let's look at someone like Andy Warhol. I like Andy Warhol's work, but not all the time. You know, there have been like decades where I'm like, I'm not so big on Warhol, but now there are other decades where I'm like, oh my God, he's fucking unbelievably brilliant. And I think that if you were to talk to people, you'll find almost every artist has that same thing. People who are indifferent to the work, people who love the work. And as they gain stature, so like let's say they go from being an artist that's known by 10,000 people to be known by 100,000 people, it's still like 50,000 people now like the work and 50,000 people now hate the work, where it used to be 5 and 5. You can't guarantee yourself you're always going to be talking to the right 50,000 or 5,000, if that makes any sense to you. So what that means is you kind of have to be a little bit nicer to yourself and understand that your confidence isn't based on other people's respect or likes or desires of your work. Your confidence has to be an inner thing, and it's something that you kind of nurture and grow. You grow it. And if you listen to anything out of this, this is the most important part. You grow it in small steps. It's like one of these paths where like you're on a hill, but you don't know you're on a hill for the first 5 miles. It's like really gentle. And so let that build of confidence happen, and don't let some idiot come into your studio or talk to you on the street and say like, well, why would anybody paint with that color? Or whatever they might say that's kind of stupid, and let that throw you into a tailspin. It's one of the most dangerous things that can happen to an artist. At the end of the day, you stay in your studio and you do the work and you build confidence from the work. People aren't going to like all your work. People may not like any of your work, but that's okay. The entire art world goes that way. Even someone like Picasso and Warhol, they both had their own times of self-doubt. So realize how you get past that self-doubt is by working through it and doing the work. And that's pretty much going to do it for us today. I think this is a really important thing that people understand, and the thing that people really can get a handle on, because that lack of self-confidence can really erode your studio work, and that would be a real shame. Like I say, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you've gone this far, I completely appreciate it. Like or subscribe if you can, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.